my name is Pascal. Today we are going to talk about which exercises you find in Stronglifts 5x5. If you want more details, then please follow the link in the description box below to my 10,000 word review. That is my attempt at the be-all, end-all review of Stronglifts 5x5, but I'll let you be the judge of that. So the 5 exercises you will find in Stronglifts 5x5 are the barbell squat, the barbell bench press, the barbell deadlift, the barbell overhead press, and the barbell row. Now, I personally have a bit of a bias for barbell movements as I went through the pain of actually building my own home gym. I still think that these compound exercises with the barbell are a very, very solid way of building strength and muscle. However, they're not the fastest way to a six-pack. If you want a six-pack, the fastest way to that is a very strict diet regimen and a lot of interval training. And that is what a lot of people probably don't like to hear. So with saying that, we will go into the 5 different exercises that are in Stronglifts 5x5 in a bit more detail. What are their advantages, what are their disadvantages, and how you might want to warm up for them. The first and core exercise in Stronglifts 5x5 is the barbell squat. You will squat each day within Stronglifts 5x5, and because it is designed for beginners, and if you are a beginner, I would not really concern myself too much about the volume. You can deal with it if you have the prerequisites for a barbell squat. Now, the barbell squat itself, the big advantages of it are that it is one of the most beneficial compound exercises you can possibly do, especially for your legs. It will make your legs grow and you will also get a full body exercise out of it. If you do them right, it even can turn into a bit of a cardiovascular training, especially if you go for 10 to 15 reps, which are not prescribed in Stronglifts 5x5, but still the barbell squat is very, very versatile. The disadvantages of the barbell squat are that it is already one of the more advanced movement patterns. Now, what do I mean by saying that? Well, the barbell squat itself already demands quite a bit of core stability. It also demands the mobility in the shoulder. It demands quite a bit of dorsiflexion down in the knee and ankle area, and also hip mobility. Not everybody really brings that to the table. So if you are having problems doing the barbell squat and going through the full range of motion, you might want to start with other exercises. For example, a goblet squat. Goblet squats or air squats can be a good alternative, but if you go down that route, then you probably will need more repetitions, and therefore Stronglifts 5x5 might not be the right program for you. Now, other alternatives to the barbell squat are the front squat and the high bar and the low bar squat if you are working with a barbell. So the front squat itself is a bit more quad dominant and less taxing on the lower back. This is usually a good variation for people who have the wrist mobility to get into the right racking position for the front squat. Again, most beginners don't have that. So it remains that you either do a high bar squat or a low bar squat. And I think most beginners should really start with a high bar squat. Now, why? The high bar squat actually leaves you open to more different movement patterns than the low bar squat. The low bar squat is very, very, very specific to powerlifting and has not as much carryover as the high bar squat to other sports or movement patterns like split squats, clean and jerks, snatches, you name it. So if you are going down the barbell squat route, probably squat high bar as a beginner rather than low bar. And if you are not strong enough to handle a barbell well, start with air squats or goblet squats as alternatives, but then also ditch Stronglifts 5x5 as a program, because if you can't handle a barbell, then Stronglifts 5x5 is not really for you. Next exercise in the Stronglifts 5x5 lineup is the barbell bench press. Now the barbell bench press is a classic in the gym. You see a lot of gym bros doing it, and it is quite easy to learn, hard to master in my personal opinion. But there are also a few things to consider when you are doing the barbell bench press. So first thing of all is your grip width. So if you are doing Stronglifts 5x5 to get a bigger chest, then you should tend to grip the barbell a bit wider. The more narrow the grip on the barbell, on the bench press, the more tricep heavy the movement becomes. The further out you can go, then the more likely it becomes that you will actually train the chest. A lot of people can get problems with their shoulders when they're bench pressing a lot. Warm-ups that I would recommend therefore for the bench press are kettlebell halos and Cuban presses, like this. So these actually smoothen up the shoulders before you start bench pressing without getting any kind of impingements. Do them before you actually go on the bench. 10 repetitions will suffice. You also don't need a lot of weight. It's all about just gelling things up and actually getting some blood into the areas that you'll be working, and also getting the tendons and ligaments a bit loosened up before you actually go under the bench. Another thing to consider about the barbell bench press is if you only do the barbell bench press, you won't get this full chest like Arnold or like you see bodybuilders having. If you really want to go for that type of physique, you will need to accessorize on Stronglifts 5x5, and the accessories would be dumbbell flies, or some type of tricep push downs, so decline bench press, incline bench press. So basically you have to attack the chest from multiple angles to then get this kind of round chest. Just from flat bench pressing alone, you will get strong, but you don't necessarily get this kind of puffy chest that looks big and, you know, makes your shirt rip, if that is what you're going for. Of course, that also has diet implications and all of that, but just sticking to exercise selection, if you want a round chest, then only the flat bench press won't do. Next exercise in the Stronglifts 5x5 lineup is the deadlift. Now with the deadlift, you can choose between conventional stance and sumo stance. Generally speaking, the sumo stance is better for people with relatively short ligaments, short arms and legs. So if your arms and legs or extremities are relatively short compared to your torso, then usually sumo pulling is the better bet for you. If your extremities, arms and legs are relatively long compared to your torso, then the conventional deadlift is usually the better one. The sumo deadlift will demand a bit more hip mobility and dorsiflexation. It is a lot more uncomfortable to get into position. It feels a lot less natural. But the leverages for a lot of people are better with sumo deadlifts. The conventional deadlift feels a bit more natural to start with. It also has more carryover to other exercises where you're gripping the barbell with your arms outside of your legs rather than inside your legs, but has the disadvantage that the leverages might not be as good. So if you are intending to travel down the powerlifting route anyway, you probably want to start with sumo and learn that movement pattern earlier. If you are doing Stronglifts 5x5 for only getting more muscle and hypertrophy, or as a starting program, and then you don't know where you're going, bodybuilding, CrossFit, weightlifting, or just, general recreation, then the conventional deadlift probably would be better. For warm-ups for the deadlift, I personally like kettlebell swings. Do them fairly heavy, 10 repetitions, maybe 3 sets or just 1 set. Don't really pick the lightest kettlebell you can move for 10 repetitions, because you want to have a bit of resistance and pop from the hip, because what you really want to practice in the kettlebell swing before you go to the bar is that you hinge the weight and explode from the hips. So if you want more instruction around that, I think one of the best sources to go to is Pavel Tsatsouline. Get his Simple and Sinister ebook. That is actually also a great alternative routine to Stronglifts 5x5 if you don't have access to a barbell. The next exercise is the barbell overhead press or military press. There are also other variations of it, like the push press. So basically, this is a very solid movement, and you would treat it for a warm-up like you would treat the bench press. So make the shoulder area very flexible and, warm it up before you actually go for the overhead press. It is the lift that you most likely will use the least weight on. The overhead press with the barbell is also the most challenging to lighter athletes, because 20 kilograms pressing overhead for 5x5, if you only weigh 50 kg yourself, can be already quite challenging. So if you wanted a substitute for that, you can also do dumbbell overhead presses being upright. That is definitely something to do. Just then with load progression, it is a bit tricky in a home gym because you might not have access to all of these dumbbells themselves. What I will say though is that Stronglifts 5x5 does ask for a strict overhead press. So what does that mean? That means that you use no momentum from the lower part of your body. You really just strictly press up, rather than gaining momentum like in a clean and jerk or in a push press where you actually go down and push up, because that is a technique to actually get more weight overhead, creating momentum from your entire body, and that is something you want to avoid for Stronglifts 5x5 if you do it by the book. I wouldn't wrap my head about it too much, but that is how it is written and that is the gospel. So then also stick to it, because if you do the strict overhead press, you will get the most muscle gains and the most kind of hypertrophy out of it for the program as it is written. If you do the dynamic movements, you will address the areas that are not being addressed by the other lifts a little less, because you will then have your back and your legs and your hips also working towards getting the weight overhead. So just weigh that up against your goals. I won't say one is right or one is wrong. It is just a matter of what you actually want to do against your goals. But without overcomplicating it, just push it straight overhead without using your body. The last exercise that is in the lineup of Stronglifts 5x5 is the Barbell Row. Now there's quite a bit of controversy around the Barbell Row on the internet and what is right and what is wrong. I don't like these kind of discussions, right, wrong. It always depends on what you actually want to achieve with the exercise. But for details, again, you want to loosen up your shoulders. You also want to take care of your back a little. So kettlebell swings come in handy there. And a combination of the 2 or 3, like, the Cuban press, the kettlebell halo, and also the kettlebell swing as a quick warm-up beforehand will do the trick for the barbell row. Now the barbell row itself, there are 3 major variations I personally think that come into consideration. So the first one is the pendlay row. The pendlay row is as it is written in Stronglifts 5x5. With the pendlay row, you always reset from the floor. You keep your back in parallel to the floor, and then you actually pull from the ground. Now, that type of row resets every rep. If you're resetting every rep from the floor, you will get more strength benefits and therefore have a bias within the program towards powerlifting. and you will have less of a bias towards bodybuilding. Which brings me to the next row, which is the, I'd say, classic barbell row. So the classic barbell row is the one where you start below the knees and you are kind of in a scissor pattern when you're standing, and then you actually pull the barbell from the knees up to your belly button and down again in a very controlled way. You usually can do less weight with that than with a pendlay row if you do it right. The advantage of that movement is that you will have a lot of mind-muscle connection if you do it right, because you will keep really the tension through the entire movement, and therefore you will get more pump for your back. The disadvantage is that it is not as strength related as the pendlay row. That is also why it is not originally written into Stronglifts 5x5. I won't say there's a wrong or right. I'm just saying these exercises are different and you can pick and choose based on your preferences. The gospel, however, is the Stronglifts 5x5 gospel is the pendlay row, which I deem to be a very, very solid exercise. Now, the last variation on the barbell row is the one that is most debated, I think, which is the one with body English, or the cheetah row, if you so may say. So what is that exercise? It's basically that bodybuilder barbell row where you start from the knees, but then instead of just using your arms and your back muscles, you actually use momentum and really be explosive from below the knees. So there is a lot of good to be said for that type of row, especially Ed Cohen will say that the barbell row with body English helped his deadlift greatly. The other camp will say that this kind of barbell row is actually too dangerous and can potentially hurt your back quite badly, because you will swing a lot of weight about for multiple repetitions without actually having proper control over it. So I think both camps are right. If you're really strong and you're not overloading this and you're doing it right, it definitely will help your deadlift going up. And I've seen it myself. Incorporating this barbell row with body English was a major contributor for getting my deadlift past the 200 kg mark. However, if you're a beginner and you don't know what you're doing, it's more likely that you're probably gonna hurt yourself by, just over exaggerating the entire movement and then pulling something in your back. So I think if you are a beginner, which is very likely with Stronglifts 5x5, stick to either the bodybuilding variation with full control through the entire range of motion, or do the pendlay roll where you're at least resetting every single time. And if you drop the weight, it's kind of weightless, you're not bending over any further, potentially hurting your back more, and you're getting tension in with every rep. So that is my piece on the barbell row for the exercise selection in Stronglifts 5x5. So to conclude for exercise selection within Stronglifts 5x5, I personally think beginners are well off starting with a high bar squat, conventional deadlift, bench press with a tidbit wider grip than you first think that is actually comfortable. Stick with the pendlay row and do a strict overhead press. All of these movements are pretty easy to learn. They are very low risk, and you will gain muscle and strength through the program, as it is very effective. The claims on the website of Stronglifts 5x5 are a little overstated. Yes, Stronglifts 5x5 is suboptimal for just muscle gain or for just strength gains, but if you want to know more about these kind of pros and cons of Stronglifts 5x5, I encourage you to look at the entire playlist on Stronglifts that I have here on my channel, or follow the link in the description box below to my 10,000 word review, where this is all really laid down to you in detail. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and tell your friends about my channel. Have a very nice day, and I hope to see you soon. Bye bye.